Anyway, topic today, we're talking about this Zoran Mondami guy. And I want to talk about it from a little bit of a different perspective. Like, I hear everyone just, oh, the sky's falling, everyone's going to leave New York, the cost of everything is going to go through the roof, rich people are going to get raked over the coals, blah, 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 blah. And I don't hear a lot of people talking about, well, why is this Mondami guy going to win? I don't hear enough people saying that, right? So, again, as a capitalist business owner, someone like myself, I want to talk about what compels people to vote for a democratic socialist in the country of America. And I believe, in short, that it's from exactly what I talk about in a lot of my casts, is that the wealthy, especially like these large corporations, very wealthy elite people, they're just hoarding all the money. You see this big AI boom going on right now. Like this AI boom, honestly, I don't think this is going towards anything. These guys are just blowing money. They're trying to blow money to try and create something that they think is going to be useful to society because they're running out of shit to create, if I'm being completely honest. So anyway, I think that this Zoran Mondami guy is basically a symptom of a major problem in America today. And this problem is really going to rear its ugly head in New York, and eventually it'll work its way west. You're going to see more and more of these cities adopt democratic socialist ideas, not because they love socialism, right, but because they don't know how to make any money. They don't know how to lead meaningful lives. They don't know how to pay for houses. They don't know how to pay for their tuitions. They can barely pay for food. They're tired of working 2, 3, 4, 5 jobs at a time. And if we don't figure out how to get people back to more of an equilibrium in society, everyone's going to vote for these people, and it's all kinds of bad if we don't figure this thing out. But you can't tell rich people what to do, right? You have to convince them to do the right thing as opposed to the capitalist thing, right? And again, I'm a total capitalist. I love capitalism, obviously as a business owner. I believe that people should be able to make as much money as they want. But if your workers can no longer afford to live and you're getting super rich and the people that invest in your company are getting super rich, something's wrong, right? The system is broken. Just because you can get a person to work for 18 bucks an hour doesn't mean that you should. And this is because if that person can't lead a good life, if that person can't, what's the word I'm looking for here? If that person can't work closer to the American dream, what ends up happening is that they start to get stressed at work. They start to not be as efficient as they would otherwise be. A lot of bad things happen in a person's life if you don't pay them well enough to afford the regular cost of living, right? And the truth is that all these companies, they're all making money. Every time inflation goes up, the cost of living goes up, the corporations continue to make more money, their stock price goes up, investors continue to make more money, but the workers don't. And a lot of these companies, one of the ways that they made money, that they raised their stock price, is to outsource a lot of that work to other countries, right? And again, this is great for the company, great for the bottom line, not good for the worker, right? So you end up with a bunch of workers that don't make enough money. Walmart's famous for having the most workers, full-time workers, that are also on welfare, right? And so just because you can pay someone a dirt cheap wage doesn't mean you should. Now, a worker has to provide value, right? And this is something that I talk about a lot today. Most workers overvalue their worth, right? They're not worth what really we should pay them because they don't want to learn. They create a lot of problems on the job site. They are disrespectful. They don't know how to read a room. They can't dress appropriately. They can't talk appropriately. There's just a lot of problems, and we got to continue to work with those things. Otherwise, these people are basically going to get left behind. And I think that's what you have going on in New York right now. Is you have a lot of people in the city of New York that feel left behind, right? And the only thing they have left to do is to vote for a socialist, because if you vote for a capitalist, it means you can't afford a house. You can't afford clothes. You can't afford to start a family. You can't afford cars. You can't afford to go on vacation. You can't afford to save for retirement. You can't afford anything if you vote for capitalists. And we know that because that's what's happened. So people are like, well, the hell with it. I'm just going to try this democratic socialist thing, this Zoran Mondami guy. And I don't blame him. I don't blame him at all. If businesses can't pay people enough money to live a good life or a reasonably good life, then what are you left with? And if you don't do that, you're going to left with a pissed off, nihilistic society, which is kind of what we got going on today. And it's leading New York to vote for socialism. So anyway, that's what I'm going to talk about today. My name is Eric Wilk, and I'm the Splendid Crow here in St. Louis, Missouri. We are a small furniture boutique company. We do about 500 pieces a year. We are known for our high gloss lacquer coating, and it's a fantastic business. Me and my wife run it. We've got about 8 or 9 employees. I think we might even have 10 employees at this point. I think we've got 8 or 9 though. And it's a small 7-figure business, you know, and again, we just lead a kind of a normal middle-class life. But some of the things I talk about in my cast are, if you own a business, you can raise your prices, right? So you keep your salary going up with inflation, right? If the cost of living goes up for everything, your goods that you sell can also go up, which it's easy to price the stuff accordingly, and then you can keep up with inflation, whatever inflation's going to do. But if you don't do that, it's very difficult to stay ahead of inflation and to stay ahead of the super high cost of living that we have today. And you have to be the best at what you do, unfortunately. And we have a society today that doesn't reward excellence as much as it used to. And we got a big group of people today that are super pissed off because they don't know how to make money. They don't know how to make it in society, and they're getting very frustrated. And again, they're going to vote for a socialist, you know. So let's talk about this guy for a second. And let's talk about some of the social issues surrounding this guy, some of the really big red flags surrounding this guy, and then some of the big red flags surrounding a place like New York City. You know, and I would also put like my home state, Oregon, Portland, Oregon, suffers from the same thing New York suffers from. Seattle, Washington, where a lot of my family goes from, suffers from the same thing. Name any big city in California, suffers from all the same stuff. Like it's a bad situation in these places, and the people are just fed up. You know, so if you can't show them how to lead a good life and basically show them to the promised land, you know, they're gonna do bad things, and that's kind of what we got going to New York. So anyway, let's talk about this guy real quick. So the Zoran, I guess it's Kwame Mandami, right? So this guy is, I mean, it's titled, he's a democratic socialist, which is cool, whatever, man. The thing about this guy that is kind of concerning to me is that he's not from here, right? Which again, everyone always says American is made up of immigrants, and American is made up of immigrants, right? But you have to be very careful electing first-generation immigrants. You have to be very careful with even second-generation immigrants. Like it can be very tricky electing certain kinds of people, because what happens is they have not assimilated into America enough to really understand how our society works, right? So this guy is not separated from his beliefs very much, right? So this guy came from a very well-to-do family, which is fantastic. Good for him. He was born in Uganda, of all places, believe it or not. And Uganda, great place. Nothing wrong with that at all. But these things kind of bother me, okay? This guy literally got a bachelor's degree in Africana Studies, okay? Now, there's nothing wrong with that, except that we make fun of those people constantly, right? We make fun of the people that get the gender studies degrees, the people that get the Chicano studies degrees. We make fun of all of these people because these degrees are worthless, right? And New York City is about to vote for a guy that literally has probably the most worthless degree you can possibly get. You know? Africana Studies, like no business is going to be looking like, oh God, you have the perfect degree. Like you have just what we were looking for. We were looking for a guy that has Africana Studies, and especially we want you to be the mayor of New York. You know, it's really wild what's kind of going on there. You know, so I'm not sure exactly what this guy's experience is. Apparently he's big into hip hop culture, and interesting dude. You know, so anyway, the guy's political career is kind of interesting. He's basically just been into politics his entire life, which is fine. But basically what that means is that this guy's never had a real job before. And this is a major red flag when you hire a politician, right? Or when you're going to have somebody represent you. If you haven't had real work experience or real life experience, you don't know how to represent people. If I'm being completely honest, right? You know, it's great when wealthy people want to give you money. It's a whole other thing when you have to help poor people, right? And unfortunately, poor people, the only thing they can give you is votes, right? There's nothing else that poor people have to give politicians. So this guy doesn't have a lot of experience in life. Exactly. This guy is basically like a very young version of Barack Obama, who is probably the worst president of my lifetime. Because he had no experience, right? This was the most mediocre person to ever be elected president. No real world experience at all. Guy basically grew up in academia, had an adult life in academia, got a degree from Harvard, right? And then got into politics, right? And of course in Illinois, you know, everyone, you know, kind of people, they just love in Illinois. They love good, virtuous people in Illinois. That guy gets elected. Never had a real job, like doesn't have any experience with anything. And then somehow as a junior senator becomes elected president. Like you can't have that in a society and expect your society to thrive. Okay, mediocrity is not okay. And anyway, this guy he kind of seems like a version of that to me. A little bit of Barack Obama light, and very young. I mean, the guy was born in 1991. So he's a young guy, has young ideals. And there's that saying, if you're not a liberal when you're young, you have no heart. If you're not a Republican when you're older, you have no brain. And this is very true. And so this guy hasn't seen enough life to really understand how things work. But the guy speaks to people, right? People are interested in what this guy's saying. He has a message that is resonating with people. I don't think his message resonates with people because it's a great message. I think it resonates because people lack hope. I think a lot of people today don't have any hope, especially in these really expensive communities or cities like New York, Los Angeles, Portland, Seattle, these places, Chicago. These places are so expensive, the average person cannot pay to live in these places. And if you need to work in the city, that means you gotta live way out in the suburbs, you gotta drive in. I mean, I remember going to Chicago to park, and parking was like $35 for a day's worth of parking. Like, that's freaking expensive. Nobody can afford that, But these cities, they keep jacking up their prices and jacking up the prices. And again, it prices everybody out unless you're really wealthy, you're really good at what you do. You can't operate in society. And so a guy like this comes along and says, hey, you know what? I'm gonna tax the rich. I'm gonna make public transportation free. We're gonna have public grocery stores. We're gonna buy up all the private property, and we're gonna make public housing. When you've made it so difficult for the average person to live in New York City, this guy sounds like Jesus, because again, people get tired of being tired, right? People get tired of struggling, of constantly having to watch their pennies, and of constantly having to just wonder when the next disaster is going to happen, right? When's the next problem going to appear, right? And then you get the people like on the internet, basically I call these the responsibility bros. These are the people that say, oh, you need to invest in gold, and you need to, buy my course on how to get rich, right? Follow my plan to real estate, buy real estate with no money down, buy Bitcoin, buy gold, buy silver. You need to do all these things. And the truth is that most people are just trying to pay their bills. Like they don't understand there's no fucking money to buy gold, right? To buy Bitcoin, and they just put a little bit away every day, that's what I do, and here's how I did it. And the truth is that these guys that are pushing this stuff, their message isn't resonating anymore. People are seeing through it. And again, I feel bad for these people. Like, I really do. It's a damn shame that people have to work so freaking hard to make so little money today. And again, as a business owner, when we hire people, we pay people low money in the beginning, and then as we see that they can do what they say they can do, as they learn skills, as they work within our culture, we then start to up their pay, and we get them up to where they want to be on a personal level. And that model seems to work really well. And I don't think a lot of businesses do that today. I think a lot of businesses just try and get people in for the lowest dollar amount that they possibly can. And while no shade to those companies. I mean, it's a contract, right? I mean, there's two people in the situation. The employer says, I'll pay you this much, and the employee says, well, I will take this much money, and you kind of work it out, and everyone kind of agrees to work together to make a product or service. But there's too many people now that just don't believe that system works anymore. And it's a bad deal. And if we don't, as business owners, figure out how to train people, how to give people real skills, and show people the path to create a better life for themselves, for their families, for their, whatever, their significant others, all these kind of things. If we don't show them how to do that and provide a path for them to do that, all these people are going to vote for socialists. America will become a socialist country, because again, you can only outsource people's work for so long. You can only replace people with H-1B visas. You can only replace people with AI so long until they eventually say, you know what, I'm done with this system. The system doesn't work anymore, and then you end up with what you had in the French Revolution, which is where they killed everybody, So if we're not careful, that's what we're going to end up with. And this Zoran Mondami is a perfect example of what's coming down the pipeline if businesses and wealthy people don't figure out how to share this money. And it's not that you got to share the wealth per se, but you got to give people enough money to where they feel good about their life. They feel good about the things that they're doing. And there's tons of people that will never do that. Like, I get it. Like, I'm the first guy to say, take a section of Nebraska and put all the deplorable people there. Like, they can all go to Nebraska. They can all be worthless together there. Of course, paid for by the American taxpayer, but get them out of society because they're of no use to us. I'm the first person to say that. But I'm also the first person to say that it is business's job to train people and give people real world skills and make people feel like what they do matters. And colleges were trying to do that, and we can see that that didn't work. Businesses didn't hire the college graduates in the numbers that they thought they would. Once the businesses got what they needed from those people, they just cast them all aside, which is a pretty shitty thing to do. If you're an American business or you're an American company that generally hires college graduates. So a lot of people don't have a lot of hope right now, and this Zoran Mondami guy is he's a symptom of a problem, and the problem is capitalism that has gone too far. And I think Trump is trying to change that, and again, people don't necessarily like when I talk about Trump, and this is not a pro-Trump or an against Trump thing, but what this guy's trying to do is he's trying to make these companies hire American people again, right? He's trying his damnedest to make it so expensive to outsource work or to bring products into America that it's cheaper or at least the same price just to do it here in America. And I've always said it before that businesses should want to hire people, right? There's nothing better than hiring a graduate or a high school graduate, right? 18 years old, and then teaching that kid skills, right? Teaching them how to do something. And as those years build up, you've got an employee who does a really good job, has a great relationship, is a good addition to your company. The company has a duty to that employee, and that employee has a duty to that employer. And that thing still exists, and I think that we've gotten away from that. And if we can keep the third world out of America, more people will get hired by these businesses because they're not going to be able to outsource all the work, right? They're not going to be able to bring in cheap H-1B visa people. They're not going to be able to AI away everything, which is what they're going to try and do. Believe it or not, you got robots coming in big time, guys. Like any kind of repetitive jobs, there's going to be autonomous robots that are going to do the bulk of this work. So people got to get educated on how to make things, right? They got to get educated on how to fix things, get educated on how to repair things, which I guess is the same as fix it. But if you don't do that, like your job is going to be replaced. Like there's no doubt about it. And if these companies continue to just outsource everything and bring in cheap labor for everything, there will be people will give up on capitalism. And if that happens, like we're all in deep shit because there's going to be nobody to create the jobs, right? Because the truth is that if you're like really honest, the reason business owners are generally paid better and more successful than the people that work for them is because most people can't start a business. Most people don't have the traits necessary to start a company or to keep a company going. It requires so many skills. And again, the responsibility to bros just say, oh, hire out your weaknesses. The truth is there's no money for that. So you have to learn to get good at all the skills that it takes to start or to run a company. And it's very difficult, which is why, again, business owners tend to make more money than employees, right? Business owners are generally more valued than employees, not because they're better or anything like that, but just because they have those skills. They've generated those skills. They've demonstrated that they can practice those skills long enough to have a company, So anyway, that's what I talk for today. I guess it's kind of brief today, but I saw a lot of talk about this Zoran Mondami guy, and they always talk about how it's going to be so bad for New York, and all the businesses are going to leave, and the taxes are going to go down, and they just talk about pain. And while I do think that'll happen, they don't talk enough about why this is happening. Like you go on Fox News, and they're just crying and pissing and moaning, and it's, again, it's Zoran Mondami. It's not his fault. Like he just has a better system. If the system that New York had worked really well, people would be voting for this guy. They'd vote for that Andrew Cuomo guy, that fucking piece of shit that basically killed a whole bunch of people during COVID. And talk about it. It's such an arrogant guy. But again, that guy's going back on the ballot. And again, he's got the Cuomos have a long history in New York. But that guy especially. What a piece of shit. But anyway. If we don't fix this, guys, like everything's going to go socialist. Like the people are going to give up on capitalism and we'll turn into Venezuela. So got to be careful. Interesting to see what happens. Personally, I think that this guy hopefully gets elected because if you don't elect this guy, people aren't going to know how bad it can get, right? And so when this guy gets elected, you will see businesses leave. You will see, wealthy people leave. You will see money flood out of New York. Because nobody wants to pay the exorbitant taxes, right? The taxes are high enough. But when it gets really bad, that will show people, that these public, these public grocery stores don't really work. The public apartment complexes don't really work. Rent control doesn't really work. Everything this guy wants to do, you know, making bus fares free, you know, won't really work. None of this stuff works. You know, it just doesn't work. And again, capitalism worked really well when you had the American workers having more control over, not necessarily control, but there was more respect between the worker and the company, right? It was more of a partnership, whereas today it's just the businesses own everything and fuck the employees. And again, I say this as a capitalist, I say this as a business owner. That's what I see today, and it's too bad. Like I think that New York City, the citizens of New York City are going to give the businesses and the wealthy people of New York a massive dick in their ass. And that's exactly what needs to happen. And the citizens will take all the pain because it will not feel good having socialism there, especially in such a wealthy place. And you'll see what you know, white flight is like, what money flight is like. You'll see all that kind of stuff. And that's the thing that will ultimately fix New York. But it's going to be painful. It's going to be bad for a lot of people. And that's too bad, you know, but it is what it is, you know. So anyway, hope everyone has a fantastic day. And we'll do this talk again tomorrow, I'm sure. I'm waiting for these damn tariffs to come through that Trump is going to impose on some of these countries as it pertains to furniture, which is going to be good. But we'll talk about that when it happens. So IBF, good to see you, dude. Glad you're here. I haven't done what's in the shop lately, man. Like I got a lot of stuff in the shop, but truth is that like I've been working with this. I've had this. It's basically like it's almost like early onset arthritis, but it's not arthritis, right? It's not degenerative. It's just like your joints are sore, they're painful, and it's called PMR. I've been working through that, and so I just haven't felt like myself for a month at this point, you know. So I haven't done all the videos that I should have been doing. I'm really just trying to do these talks on a daily basis, or at least semi-daily basis, to keep the content going, you know. So, but I'll do what's in the shop again and show you guys kind of what I got going on. I got a lot of cool projects, man. So anyway, everyone have a great day.